You don't have to get consent from minors. You don't have to get consent from kids. And you don't even have to get consent from adults, because consent is not something you get. Wait, before you call the police, you don't know what consent is. Okay, so that feeling that you have in your chest right now that's like, Stevie is a criminal, let's talk about it. I feel like so many people feel lectured to about like what's good or bad when it comes to consent, but no one ever says, I did these bad things and this is what I learned. So hi, I'm a criminal and I'm turning myself in. So this video is me confessing 5 consent crimes that I've personally committed. And each one gets worse than the last, so buckle up.
Excuse me, Stevie, you've been a sex educator for like a decade. How could you be committing consent crimes?
Great question. Studies show that when more and more people understand the laws about consent, it doesn't equal a decrease in the rates of SA. And a study found that when people feel like they understand SA, they don't think they need to learn anything more about consent. I think that's the real crime. When we treat consent education like it's a punishment, like it's for bad people, then admitting guilt is basically impossible. Because if everyone thinks that the world only has either good people who never mess up or evil criminals, then what we actually create is a world full of one type of person. Liars. After I read this book, I made a TikTok about consent and y'all blew up my comments asking for more. I went to make one long video trying to say everything I had to say. Then I had a mental breakdown and dissociated into The Sims for a couple weeks. When I respawned back into reality, I realized that there's only one thing a reformed sex ed criminal should do. Confess my sins to Sarah Caspar.
And I'm very excited to be here.
I know. The author of that book that I read is literally here with us. You're welcome.
Yeah, she's so excited to be here so that she can lock you up.
Okay, relax. These aren't crimes because I broke laws. We'll get to that later. They're crimes because I was wrong about consent and then taught it to millions of people. Learning about consent is not something only bad people need to do. So let's turn my personal guilt into community accountability because I love making religious jokes. Forgive me, Sarah, for I have sinned. My first crime isn't one that I did in like just one video. It was inside my head. I confused legal consent with ethical consent. So I kind of maybe acted like they were the same thing, or worse, that legal consent was like the more important one to talk about in sex ed videos. Illegal. Wrong, literally wrong with my whole chest. Hey Sarah, do you think we should start consent education by talking about laws in courtrooms?
Absolutely not. Another way to think about this is like we can understand the concept of honesty without teaching kids about perjury and larceny and like treating people well.
Drag me. That is hilarious. Imagine a kindergarten teacher being like, okay class, circle time. Today we're learning about honesty and sharing. Chapter 1, larceny and perjury. I'm laughing now, but I was almost teaching consent like it was a checklist. Like consensual equals legal equals good. Non-consensual equals illegal equals bad. Like there's consent and then there's assault.
Yeah, obviously. There's 2 consent genders. This is fine and this is a felony. Pick one.
First of all, I can't teach you about legal consent because I'm not a lawyer and you're all in different countries. Even within the US, different states can't decide if 2 teenagers sexting each other is Romeo and Juliet or Law and Order SVU. So what should I have focused on? Ethics. And to be fair to my past self, I did focus on this a lot in videos. So I only get like 1 out of 5 handcuffs. But from now on, I will clearly draw a line because laws are important, but they don't tell you what's right. Laws once said it was totally fine to own other human beings. Being married to someone meant everything is consensual until like the 90s.
Yeah, and in some states, it was illegal to buy a special Buzz toy before it was illegal to marry your cousin. Priorities, people.
And that's why I love that just because something isn't illegal doesn't mean you can't figure out a way to make it more ethical.
It's not illegal to pick your own debt, sell R-rated movie tickets to kids, or consume human flesh.
Speaking of Dusty, let's talk about British people. Forgive me, lesbians, for I have sinned again. My next crime? Implying that consent is literally just permission. Like it's a password, and if you say yes, the gates of sex shall open. Open, yesame. Congratulations, you said the magic word. You will now receive 1 sex. If you take anything away from this video, I want it to be this. Consent is not permission. Practicing consent is how you navigate boundaries and desires and also permission, yeah. But when someone says no, that is practicing consent, but it's not giving permission. Permission is more like a transaction, and consent is a relationship. Have you seen the British PSA video where they compare consent to sex to drinking a cup of tea?
If you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, then how hard is it to understand when it comes to sex?
Right, hot take alert. I hate that video. I know. People think it's like the crown jewel of Consent 101, but hear me out. Sarah said it's like very gatekeeper model. Yeah, so the first problem is it's saying like consent is when a desperate dude is like begging to give a woman a cup of sex. It's giving, gee whiz, mister, I sure hope she lets me steal a kiss behind the water fountain, but I better make sure she's not unconscious first. That's the rule. It really pisses me off because it's so insulting. Do we really think that young people are so morally bankrupt that the number one thing they need is a cartoon that explains don't force people to do things against their will? Like, what's next? Okay, class, here's everything you need to know about sex. But that's what I think. What do you think, Sarah?
It just standalones makes the analogy of like consent is permission. And that's all it is. It's like a rote yes or no, acting like the layers of saying yes or no to a beverage is the same as the layers of saying yes or no to sex, which has so many more dimensions to it.
Yeah, if consent was permission, imagine asking, did you get consent to open the door, or did you get consent to sneeze in front of your friends? It makes no sense, because consent is about way more than looking at a menu and ordering a serving of someone's genitals. Saying practicing consent is just asking for permission is like saying that practicing medicine is just being a dickhead. A lot of doctors are dickheads, but they also do other stuff, allegedly.
Yeah, you have to be an asshole and go to medical school to practice medicine. It's true. I checked.
Forgive me, pansexuals, for I have sinned. And this one, oh, I'm guilty. If selling enthusiastic consent like it was the whole truth was illegal, I would be locked up. I think one time I said, if someone isn't super excited to do you, then they're literally a human trash bag. Past me, I love you, girl, but that does not pass the vibe check.
I'll drink to that.
Being enthusiastic isn't bad, but it's also not the evidence. You know? And I'm gonna go a little bit further. Dismissing someone's yes because you don't like the way that they said it is literally tone policing in a slutty little trench coat. Sarah, take it away.
People should get to choose to do things that they're not enthusiastic about. You should be able to do something scared. You should be able to do something curious. You should be able to do something tired. You should be able to choose to do that. It's about choice, not about jumping for joy and excitement. That can be part of it, and it's fantastic when it's part of it a lot of the time. But if we say that you only get to be an agent of choice when you do it in this way, that's not actually being an agent of choice.
She's so right. Like, is this freedom or is it a performance? A huge part of practicing consent is agency, about having the power to decide what, when, and how, always. Looking back now, it's kind of like I got caught up being the vibe police and ended up betraying the whole point. It doesn't matter like at all if consent is enthusiastic or sexy or not. Agency is what you do with autonomy once you have it, because consent is not a magic spell that protects you from harming people. It's a skill that you use when, not if, you inevitably screw up. Speaking of things that don't matter, let's talk about sex. Forgive me, bisexual strat fairy, for I've sinned again. And judging from my comment section, a lot of y'all are guilty of this one too. So what is my fourth crime and second worst on the list? Shrinking consent down to a chapter in sex ed instead of the foundation of being a person. When we act like consent is a sex thing, we make it something only those people need to learn about, you know? And that's how good people commit the worst consent crimes, because we convince ourselves we're above the lesson. Like it's a health class appetizer before the condom banana demo. So Sarah, do you think we should be introduced to the idea of consent by starting with sex?
Absolutely not. We are teaching kids about consent. We are teaching people about consent, whether we use the word consent or not. When parents hug their kids and insist on kissing them, even though they're pulling away, you're teaching your child about consent, never using the word, never specifying it. But you're still teaching about the concepts of how you interact with one another, but you don't need to teach the highest form of it in order to teach the concepts. anyone already who has kids is probably teaching them about permission. You can't basically go through school without using with understanding sharing and asking first.
Exactly. Consent isn't a class to prep you for future hookups. It's not like SAT prep for penetration. Practicing consent is way bigger than that. It's like the fundamental pillar of humanity. It doesn't start with hookups, it starts with autonomy. Honestly, it starts in the womb. Think about it. The reason we have the right to choose is because we have the inalienable right to bodily autonomy.
An unwanted pregnancy is literally a consent violation.
So the first time you practiced consent wasn't at age 5 when grandma asked if she could give you a kiss. It was literally when your life began. Bodily autonomy isn't a grown-up privilege, it's a human baseline. That's why practicing consent is not about prepping you for sex. It's about prepping you for life. And the problem is when we frame consent as only sexual, we miss everything else. Excuse me? What? I was being nice by helping you. Very ungrateful. Like wheelchair users being pushed without permission, or doctors doing exams without specifically asking first, and parents shaving kids' heads as punishment. And I'm not above it, and neither are you. If you think you don't have anything more to learn about consent, you're not just wrong, you're dangerous. And the reality is we never ever stop learning how to practice consent. And when you were really small is when consent education should have started. It's how we figure out how to set our own boundaries, how to listen to someone else's, and how to hold both of those things without dropping either. Thank you so much for watching me confess my 5 biggest consent crimes.
Not so fast. You've only confessed 4.
I confused legal with ethical, I treated consent like it was just permission, I sold the enthusiastic hype train, and I shrunk consent down to like a sex ed footnote, instead of letting it be the massive human skill that it really is. Okay, before I tell you my final crime, I want to thank my patrons.
You're thanking people before you admit your worst crime? Bold strategy.
Yeah, it's called gratitude. You should try it.
Oh, come on. Tell us the worst crime.
We'll get there, okay? Let me at least recap the lesson before I burn my career to the ground. Consent isn't permission. It's not about laws, tea, vibes, enthusiasm, or sex. It's about how we show up for each other. The best part about accepting all of those things is that you don't have to prove something was illegal before you're allowed to feel hurt. You're allowed to feel hurt even if no one technically did anything wrong. Taking accountability when you've contributed to hurting someone doesn't mean you're admitting that you're evil. It means that you're choosing to practice consent, because being good at consent doesn't mean you'll be perfect. It means you'll be present.
You're stalling.
I'm contextualizing.
You're deflecting.
Okay, fine. Just so you know, the last one is like the worst one. Like, cancel me twice in 2 directions.
Good. We love a dramatic downfall.
Oh my God, Snippy, you're supposed to help me with these videos. You're not supposed to build suspense like a Netflix villain.
Cool story. I'm not gonna call the police. I'm gonna call Jesus.
Okay, really quick before the verdict and sentencing, I looked at my analytics and a huge percentage of you watch these videos on a TV. Wow. Oh, you look great, by the way. I love what you've done with the place.
I'm gonna tell your wife you're flirting.
Sorry, I can't help it. Okay, grab your phone. Point your camera right there and it'll take you to my Patreon where you can help me reach my goal of not going into debt to make these videos.
Oh yeah, nothing says emotional climax like a QR code.
Shout out to Sarah Caspar for letting me confess my crimes directly to the source.
Yeah, she's just gathering evidence.
And that's the end of the video. Wow, thank you so much for watching. I'm just kidding. I guess I have to tell you the last one, but I don't want to.
Confess, coward.
Okay. Forgive me, audience, for I have sinned again. And for this one, I'm sweating. So I avoided talking about this one forever because I thought saying the truth would make people freak out, like start a riot. Not only that, but because I thought the lie was safer and the truth was dangerous. Which is really funny because my wife said I should come with a warning label that says, cannot lie. So you know this one's serious. Okay, here it is. Sometimes, no can mean yes. Okay, so the question I used to get all the time, like in DMs or comments, or sometimes teenagers in real life at speaking events was, can no mean yes? And I always say that Sarah radicalized me, but her take on this one broke my fear wide open. So Sarah, is it dangerous to admit that no can mean yes?
So I'll tell you exactly how I answer this when students say this to me in workshops, which is, yes, that is sometimes true. I've definitely said no, like in a cheeky way or like playfully. And also, I've definitely said that in a way where it was not playful and someone thought it was.
Yep, relatable. I didn't want to say that no can mean yes because I didn't want people to say no when they mean yes, because I wanted the slogans to work. And if I say it's not true, then it makes it not true, right? Wrong.
And so it's not that that is never true, but it's that what are the consequences of assuming that that's always true, or that that's true when just because you want that to be true. So yeah, sometimes people say no and they mean yes, or they say no and they're being cheeky or playful. And what do you do in that moment is what we need to be teaching students.
Oh my God, yes. That part is like the true consent education. The point isn't to deny that the gray areas exist. The point is to learn how to navigate them. Because one of the first jokes I ever learned as a kid was saying no when I mean yes. Hey, can you pass the salt? No. It's literally half of childhood humor. Hey, quick question. Is this my best friend playing her toddler's first improv game, or is it a crime?
No.
Adorable. Put the baby in jail. Okay, so since no can sometimes mean yes. Hey, Sarah, why shouldn't we lie to people when they ask that question?
We don't need to teach them that, no, that doesn't happen, because that entirely contradicts with their lived experience. And if we want them to trust us as educators, as people who are telling them about how the world works, we gotta be trustworthy and be honest that, yeah, sometimes that is the case.
Yeah. Honesty and being trustworthy are way more important. The truth is messy. It's easier to sell a pretty slogan than it is to get all dirty in the nuance. And the nuance is uncomfortable, but pretending it doesn't exist, that's being a coward. I'll say it now with my whole chest. Sometimes no can mean yes, but that's up to the person who's saying it. You can't turn someone else's no into a yes because you want it to be that. And all of these slogans have really good intentions, but they flatten the messiness of how we connect with each other. And this might be too far, but I think it kind of comes off as like desperate PR. Please stop harming us. If you stop, we promise we'll find you really sexy. And I totally get it. Simplicity helps beginners, but grown-ups need nuance, or we end up weaponizing simplicity and literally making no sense. Sometimes a no is playful. Sometimes a no is testing safety. Sometimes a no flips into a yes because the person feels free enough to change their mind. And that's not simple, but it's honest.